Alright, so we've got it textured, so now what we need to do is paint it. So, looks acceptable. So I'm going to go to my paint section. We're going to add a new layer, and we'll just call this base colors. And then it's going to ask for size and the type and the channel. Okay, so size, let's do 4096 just because I like to make it difficult. And I'm going to do PNG. And then diffuse. So you're going to see there's diffuse, specular, gloss, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you might be like, well, where's color? Diffuse is color. When you look at an object, the light that, the surface that gets lit up is the diffuse. The specular is the highlight. So we're going to just do a diffuse. And then I'm not going to worry about specular. No, I'm not going to worry about specular because we'll just make it all flat. So we'll just go diffuse and we'll hit OK. Yay. Okay, so now we got this base color and I'm going to switch over to Le Paint tools. And now we can use these various tools here. So I'm just going to use this paintbrush to start with. And I'm going to choose color and I'm going to choose a tree color because those are my favorite kinds of colors for trees, are the ones that are the color of trees because I'm cool like that. All right. And we'll say that's good. Good. Blah, blah, blah. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to paint this tree just to start with this base color. Okay, so boom. And then I just brush it on, right? Seems pretty straightforward. Now, this is a little bit harder to basically get colored, right? Because I got to go around and move it around and all this other business. But what I can do is do this. I could go to display, and then you could do, UV maps, and you could do flatten to UV space. And it did the stupid, hang on a second, make sure I'm on this. I think because I was painting, it tried to paint on those things. So make sure you're on this guy, and then go UVs, flatten to UV space. There we go. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to take it, and it's going to put it into its UVs. And when I paint here, it's the same as painting it, on the object itself. So, oops, accidentally painted that a little bit. Okay. So this is a little bit easier to paint it this way, right, this base color, than it would be to do it the other way, all right? And then when you're done, it's going to go UVs and maps, and we're going to go unflatten from UV space. And then we're back in business. And you can see it works great. Why did it not paint those? Cancel. Stupid. All right, well, I don't know what happened there. UVs and maps, flatten UV space. It says I painted it. Are some of these flipped or something? Oh, because it was underneath this thing. I didn't see it. That's why it didn't work. Okay. Well, I'm an idiot. We can all agree with that anyway. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and do a better job of painting it. There we go. And get everything now? I think so. So, UVs and maps, unflatten from UV space. Boom. Okay. So now, if we look at it, we've got it painted, right? And that looks acceptable. Let's go ahead and... I don't know what's going on with this weird eyedropper. Okay. So we'll call that a base color. That looks okay. So, yeah. So, now the way I usually do things is I will do like a base color and then I will do colors kind of, on top of that, right? So I might do another layer, and you can just do layers. I'm just going to do diffuse again, and we'll just do this, we'll call it variation. Variation. Okay. And there we go. So we got this variation, and then what I can do is go back to paintbrush, and let me see something real quick. No. Okay, we're going to go back here. Yeah, actually, you know what? Let's just go ahead and use airbrush. So I'm just going to use airbrush, and I'm just going to basically try to paint, and we'll close that out. Just a little bit. Is this way too big? It is way too big. Oh, come back here. There it goes. And we're just going to weaken it up. And I'm just going to basically paint. Maybe I need to up the strength a little bit. There we go. And I'm just going to kind of paint a little bit of this green in here, just to kind of break it up, right? So paint a little bit of this green. Doesn't need to be anything too fancy, but I just want to spicing it up. So then I'm going to go ahead and let's do a little bit of like a tannish yellow, right? Throw that in there. Okay, because if you were to look, you know, when you look at like a painting or you look at just life in general, if you take a photo of something, right? One of the reasons why a painting looks good or bad is because basically it's not like they just painted a red barn red. Let's go ahead and do this, and let's go over here, and I'm going to do a really deep kind of color like this. It's not because they painted it red. It's actually got a whole flurry of colors, right? It's got like some blues and oranges and yellows, and it's a whole variety of colors. So what we're trying to do here is just give it variation. A good example of this is actually, look at your skin. Turn your arm over right now, and you'll see you don't just have a generic flesh tone color. You actually have a whole variety of colors in your skin. It's not just one tone. There's a million colors all permeating throughout all of it, okay? So that's what we're trying to do here. Is I'm just trying to create a variation. You can see that looks a lot better with the variations than without, right? So watch this. If I turn this off, it looks kind of bland. It just adds a little bit of pizzazz to it, okay? So that looks fine. Now, what we could also do is this. So we could do the same thing we did before. I'm going to go back to the brush here. I could use this stencil, and I could grab a stencil of a tree and paint that texture on there like we did before. So like there was that one that was the tree trunk, this one here. And it will use it like an alpha, and whatever color I brush, that's what it will brush. So let's pretend like I want to use that, and I'm just going to go ahead and do like a kind of a color like this, right? And you're going to see it does a terrible job. Let's take the strength down a whole bunch. You're not really. It's the problem is it's too gray. See how it's there all the way across? It needs something that's a little bit more black and white. So let's try this one. S down. Need something that's a little bit more obvious. We'll just use one of these. This will work. So you'll see it will paint through that, right? So we could do something like that. That would work fine. So you could grab an image, do it that way, and it would look okay. You could also do the stamp thing, right? So we could grab a stamp and then draw like using the stamp. Gotta make this stronger, I think. I don't know if you can even see it, but it's... Come on. Why is it not getting... Oh, I'm holding the wrong letter. Here we go. Hopefully you can see the little lines there. It's drawing little lines, okay? So we could do either one of those things. That would totally work. Another thing you can do is projection. So you might think, oh, projection is the same thing as stencil. It's actually not. Because what stencil will do when you color through it is it uses the color you have and then just screens it through this image. If you do projection, what it will do is... So let's say I grab this one. Actually, let's go back to the bark one. Let's say I grab this bark one. Notice that it's not black and white. Notice that now it's got this color on there. So what it's actually going to do is it's actually going to project the color onto that. So I'm going to make a new layer, and we'll just call this like texture. What it's going to do is actually going to paint that color onto it. So I'm going to go on this, make sure it's white. And now when I go to paint it, it's actually going to paint its color onto the thing. Now if you do a color that's not that, if you do something, let's say we do that brown, it's going to tint it with that. But that's basically, that's the idea of it. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and do like a lightish grayish brown because that white's like too much. Let's just lower the strength of it a bunch. And, oof, that was too much. Let's raise it up again. I guess raise it up more. Let's just lighten it, and then we'll just raise the strength. Come on. It was doing so well before. Now all of a sudden I can't see it. Oh, because the strength. So it's proportionate. Okay. Oops, cancel. So I'm just going to kind of brush through it. And I'm going to just brush this on. I'm not super happy with the results, but I'm going to show you what we can do to make this work. Okay. So again, you could just grab your own picture. I would find like a tree trunk that makes you feel the warm and fuzzes. All right, so I'm just going to kind of brush this as best I can. Or at least as much as I can lazily do it without putting in a ton of effort. Okay, great. And I'll hit Q to turn that off. All right, so it's sort of taking it over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this texture, and then I can fade it all the way out or fade it in, and I can kind of adjust it, right? Because we have these opacity things. So I'm just going to kind of fade that in a little bit, and I feel like that adds quite a bit to my tree. Okay, now the next thing I want to do with this tree is this. I would like to push the lights and darks. So if you remember before when we did that couch, the chair there, I used that ambient occlusion. You can actually bake maps into this as well. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that. I'm going to close this guy out. So there's yeah, we'll just do that first, and then I'll show you some of these other things. Dodge burn. Yeah, we'll show you this afterwards. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go to UVs and maps, and then you'll see extract texture maps, new operation, and we're going to do an ambient occlusion. I'm going to name this one AMBOCC, so I know what it is, and it's going to ask for target models and source models. So we will add. Let's see. All right. Crap. Okay, let's go to sculpting here, and I'm gonna hit page down, and we're gonna lower this to the level that I'm going to use in our game. So I'm gonna say it's gonna be. Let's use level 1. Okay. So I'm gonna hit. So you have to hit down level 1. Hit add selected. I might have to select the object itself. Apparently, which one are you? There we go. Add selected. Okay. Then go ahead and page up to your highest level, which I think is 6. I'm not sure how high we went. Did we go to 5? I thought we went to 6. Oh, it's working on it. Okay, yeah. So we went to 6, I think. Good. Okay. And then we'll hit add selected. Crap. Click on it there. Add selected. Why are you not target models at all? That's really stupid. Okay, so we'll just take this and remove those. I'm not sure what was going on there. So level 0 and level 6. So basically we want to, because the idea is here is that we're going to create this high res model and output a low res model that we can use in our game. Okay, so that's all fine. Quality, we're just going to do good because I don't feel like doing all of this. Ray casting is fine. Hit best guess. Why is it giving me? Let me see. Will subdivision work better? Seems to be okay with. I'm just go ahead and do subdivision. It's a little bit easier. Image size. Let's do 2048. I know we're using 4096, but we'll just use 2048 because I don't want to make it really high res. And I'm just going to do 2 times anti-aliasing, and then it's going to ask where we want to save this. So we're just going to hit. I'm just going to go to the desktop for right now because I don't really care. So I'm going to call it tree AMBOCC. All right, and then we will hit. Now, this is a thing, too, where you should save it, because this is where it could kind of get stuck. And we're just going to hit extract. And depending on, so you can see it says 2% down here. It looks like it's actually going pretty fast. Sometimes it's kind of slow, sometimes it's kind of fast. It kind of depends. I'm going to not pause the video, because it looks like it's going through it in a semi-timely manner. But basically what it's going to do is it's going to create this ambient occlusion pass for us, and, you know, it will be great for everybody involved. Yay! So it's going to create this map. Hit OK, close. All right. So let's go back to my layers. Let's go to my paint layers. Let's unselect this real quick. Go to layers. Okay. So now you'll see we have this. It says tree AMB. So basically what it did is it created this ambient occlusion layer. Okay, so what it's going to do is it's going to darken up any kind of inside spots, but basically it's a black and white image. All right, so this doesn't have any major crevices, so there's really not probably too awful much that it would have added, but obviously I don't want the white. I just want to keep the black part and kind of get rid of the white. So what you can do is actually change the blending mode. So if you look up here, you see it says normal. It has blending modes just like Photoshop. So we're just going to do multiply, which will get rid of the white but keep the black. And that will add a little pizzazz. So it didn't look like it did that much. Let's see. Added a little. I don't know. Didn't do too much. You'll see it more apparent on some models more than others. Okay. Let me see. I want to see if there's any other new operation. Displacement normal. We're going to do the normal map and displacement map. Okay, we won't do that for now. All right. So, yeah. So that created that, and you can, play around with that. But basically, I just added it. Multiply. That's fine. Now what I'm going to do is create another layer, and we'll just call this pre-shading. And we'll make another diffuse. All right. And what I'm going to do for this is use this dry brush. So hopefully you'll kind of see what this does. So actually, I'm going to rename this. We're going to call it dark shading. And I'm going to change my color to black. Or actually a really dark, this color. Okay. And what I'm going to do is using the dry brush. The idea is that when you use the dry brush, it will catch the surface but miss the crevice. But if you hold control, it does the opposite. Because remember, control will sculpt inwards as opposed to outwards. So if I hold control with black and draw across, it's going to go into the crevice but not into my other area. Size, strength is good. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of take this, and let's make this bigger, and I'm just going to brush this in, and you're going to notice that it's going to try, and I'm just, real wildly brushing in here. It's going to go more where the inside is, cancel, and less where, so notice how it went right into the inside there where there was a concavity. Because I'm holding control. Make sure you hold control. That's the key to it. Okay. Let's make this a little bit smaller, and maybe it'll pick up these like wrinkles here. Come on. I'm doing a good job on the wrinkly areas. A little disappointed there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is make another layer. We'll call this light shading. And make sure with this dark one, make sure that's also multiply, so it's only adding the dark. And we'll do the pre-light, and that one's going to be screen, so it only adds light. I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to do kind of a really pale whatever there. And this will basically catch the surface and not the crevice. Oops. Stop trying to draw strokes on the thing there. It's a little strong, honestly. Let's weaken that up a little bit. I want to make it strong enough that you can see it, but most of the time you want these things to be relatively subtle. So we're just kind of brushing around here. Alright, because variety is the spice of life, or something. Is that the saying? I don't know what the saying is. See, that's way too much yellow right there, but whatever. Okay. So now you can see we kind of have this way too yellow back of a tree. Someone brought spray paint to it. But that's the dry brush. That's super useful. There's obviously burn and dodge, which will, well, that's blur, sorry. There's dodge and burn, which obviously lighten, darken, blur, blurs. Contrast, hue. Most of these are pretty obvious as to exactly what they are, right? So pencil is just like the pencil tool. It's just like it is in Photoshop, where there isn't really a fall off so much. Eyedropper, obviously it's the sample colors. You should get most of what you need from there. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's anything else with that I would want to show. We did stamps. So again with that though, there's one other thing that you might find useful as well. So what you can actually do is this will actually work with, I'm going to save this real quick because I didn't save this. I haven't saved this since the beginning. You should be saving constantly. It was flashing at me really angrily. It is possible also to use this in conjunction with Photoshop, or if you have another image editor that will use Photoshop files, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to wait for this. There we go. So what you can do is you can go over, I can right click on this, and you can export channel to PSD. You click on that, what it's going to do is it's going to compress it or whatever, and then it's actually going to send it to Photoshop. And then in Photoshop, you'll see the UVs and everything, and you can actually use your tools in there. Hopefully. Let's see, try that again. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have to do it this way. Yeah, I want to do the whole thing. Export channel to PSD. I wonder if I have that Photoshop open. It used to just open it up for you, but some of these programs, granted. Come on. Let's cancel. Alright, so let's open up Photoshop, and then I'll try it again. Hopefully it used to open it up for you, but I don't know if there's things blocking it. So I'm going to try and do this and see if this works, and then come on. Good old slow Photoshop. But basically it'll allow you to send it to it, and then in there you'll see kind of like you normally have, where you have the UVs and the colors and all those other things, and then you can use any kind of tools, like if you need to use the heel brush or something on a seam or something like that, you can actually visibly see them there. I'm not going to require that you use it, but then you just save it, and then you come back here, and then it will reload it. Sometimes I think it'll do it automatically, and then sometimes I think you have to tell it to do that. Photos Media Engine add-on. Just got installed. Okay. So let's see. Hey, come on. Let's just create new. Whatever. I'm just going to do that for now, just so that there's something in there. Okay, let's go back to Mudbox, and let's try that again. Export channel to PSD. Something's amiss. I don't know, but it's supposed to do that. Something's, usually don't have any issues with that. Anyway, we're gonna call that fine for now. I don't really care. I'm not gonna bother texturing these because it's just the same process as this. So the next thing we need to do is take what we have here and basically put it back into Maya. Now we have two options here. So we could also paint our specular. I'm not going to worry about that right now, but we have two main options here. It depends on what our output is going to be. So we can either take our details that we have and bake them to a normal map, or we can bake them to a height map. So you got to kind of decide what you want to do, right? So it depends on what the output is. So we'll do both, and that way you can kind of see what they are. So we're going to go UVs and maps, extract texture maps, and I guess we'll do and we'll just rename this normal, and then height. And we're going to do two things. We're going to do a displacement map and a normal map. Probably should call it displacement instead of height. Height map and displacement map are obviously the same thing. Okay. So normal, displacement. All right. So we're going to do both. Let's do the displacement first. So let's just hit add all, and then I'm going to take remove, and it's still on level 1. Am I on level 1? Page down. Let's get to level 1. Oops, object list. Page down. Level 1. Okay. So let's remove that guy, and then add all. Remove. All right, let's just grab it here. Which one are you? No, mesh 3. Okay. And add selected. It still says level 0. Oh, here we go. Duh. All right, so then we will add selected. And okay, so we're going to do level 1 to level 6. Okay. The things before, and let's just do subdivision again because I've been having better luck with that. We're going to generate one map for all targets. Let's just do 2048 because I don't want it to take forever. We'll do 2x for the anti-aliasing, and we're making a displacement map, so it's going to be a texture. And we will again just save this right to the source images of this, and we'll just call it displacement. Okay, and that's fine. Now let's go to the normal map, and more or less it's the same settings. That is fine, and we'll just hit the settings here, and we will call this normal, and save. Okay, so basically we have both of them going on, so from level 1 to level 6, and it's going to save it there. It's going to be texture, and then we will hit extract. And it's going to do both of these things, and it will take a little bit of time. Once it's done, I will show you what the results are. Now notice when I added on the normal map, I didn't really show that earlier, but it said the tangents and stuff were set up for Maya, so you just want to make sure that those are, you know, correct. Yay! Okay, let's close. Okay, and let's just unselect that. And good. So now I'm going to go back to layers, and now you'll see we have this normal and this bump. So if I hit the normal off, and we hit the bump off, this is what it looks like. This is the actual model. So you can see by adding the bump, which is actually a normal map, right? It creates through the normals, because if I hit W, you'll see the wireframe. Well, can't really see it too good, but it's actually flat there. That's actually a texture that's making it look like that. Okay, so you this would be appropriate for like video games. Okay, so this is what you'd want to do. Because you can have your low poly thing and then just use the textures as the dependency to make it give the appearance through lighting that it looks like it's got texture and stuff. Okay. Now, if you do, oh, that's the bump map. Sorry. And then normal map will look the same. So the bump map and displacement are kind of the same thing. So with bump map is the black and white version, and normal map is an RGB version. So this actually might be useful to you. Let me show you something. So if I go to normal map, I can right click on this and we can solo. So let's solo as diffuse, and you're going to see it's going to be that blue color. This is what the normal map looks like. So it uses RGB. Okay. So let's, can I just click on that? Will that turn that back off? No, it doesn't. Okay, so let's unsolo. Or Han Solo. I don't know. Oh, get back on. Come on. There we go. So that's with the normal map. As opposed to a bump map, right? Let's turn this guy off, and I'll solo this guy. Solo as diffuse. And what a bump map does is the same as a displacement map. Basically uses black and white, and black goes in and white comes out. So it does the same thing. They both baked the texture, the surface, you know, valleys and peaks and valleys. Is that the words? But they do it differently. So there's a bump and then there's the normals. Now we have both of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unsolo this, and we're just going to export these out and then bring them into. Come on, man. Why are you not unsoloing? Unsolo. There we go. So that's with just that. Let's put everything back on. So now what I'm going to do is this. We're just going to go ahead and save what we have here. I'm going to Control S. We're almost done, so I know it's taking a while. And now we just need to export things back out. So the only thing I'm going to worry about exporting actually is just the tree, because I only put the branches in and well, the tree and the rocks I want to export out. I only put the branches in because my concern was just so we could see them, and the hill, same thing. I don't really care about that, but I do want to export out this tree at the subdivision level 1. As well as these. So if you remember, these actually are already created, because when we did that extraction, these are actually images that are being referenced into this, and right now they're my source images, so I don't need to export out these, but I do need to export out my diffuse. So to do that, I don't want to just grab one and do it, like export, I want to go to the diffuse on the top here and export channel merged. And then again, I'm going to go to my desktop and go to the hills and go to my source images, and we'll just call this color, and we'll export out that. And now that color map is exported. Okay. And we're going to see. And I would just do the same process for the rocks as well. So merging channel. Okay. Now what I want to do is I should be on level 1. So I'm going to go level 1. I'm going to select the geometry. Or actually, let's do it this way. So it was what? Mesh 1? No. Which one is it? Mesh 3. So I'm going to select the Mesh 3. And then I'm just going to do File. And we're going to export this. Now the reason why I'm exporting this back out, not just using what's in there, I could. But if you remember, I moved quite a bit of this. And so I might have just sculpted on it. But it actually kind of adjusted the model itself. So I want to take what I did in there and make sure that it's the same. So that's why I'm exporting it out. So we're just going to do export selection. And I'm not going to do an FBX. I just want the model itself. So we're just going to do OBJ. It's not going to be the source images. We're going to go to scenes. And it's going to be tree to Maya. And save. Okay. And let's go here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this tree. Select that one, delete it. And do File, Import. And we're going to do tree to Maya. Yeah, tree to Maya. Import. Okay, so you can see it's one subdivision level higher, and it's got my base stuff. And now what I need to do is apply my materials. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to make a new material. So here's the thing. If you're going to be doing it for a video game, you want to use that normal map. You would take the normal map, you throw it on there, you put it in the video game. The way displacement maps work, or bump maps. The bump maps will work, and it does the same thing the normal map does, but it just does it through black and white. That doesn't look as good. So if you're going to do that, you just use the normal map. But if you want to use a displacement map, and the displacement map, the difference is that it actually physically changes the geometry. Like it will physically move it up and down. The way that works, though, is that if you look, there's not enough geometry to support that texture you saw. So what it does is that it'll look like this when you're working on it, but during render time, it will automatically subdivide the model a certain amount, and then it'll automatically subdivide the model a certain amount, and then it will go through and apply that displacement map and use the subdivided model. That obviously is not going to work in a video game because it has to be really high res and all that other business. So normal maps for games, and some other scenarios, and displacement maps if you're doing like a pre-rendered sequence, particularly in Arnold. Arnold's not really that great with normal maps, at least I've had difficulties trying to make them work. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to assign a new material, and I'm just going to do the displacement map in here because it'll look nicer. So we'll just do the standard surface, okay? Great, standard surface, and for the color, let's go ahead and just do a preset real quick, whatever I think is the closest, and let's just do rubber because I don't know, why not, right? So we'll do color first. I'm going to do color and select file, right? We're going to grab this and I'm going to select my color, and I can see my texture right here. It looks pretty good. And let's make sure we have textures on. Hit 6 or hit this little thing up here. And there's our texture, right? That looks pretty good, minus the back. Okay, let's go back on here. Let me see. So we did... Oh, so then after that, I need to basically do my displacement. So to do that, we got to go to the actual shape, go to the Arnold. And let me see. What are you? Displacement attributes. Where was that? Hang on a second. So I need to get to the shader. So click on this one. Wrong one. Sorry. We gotta go to this one here. So this is the stuff that's going into my material here. So that's the shader. So I click on that, and then it will give me this. So I go to displacement material. Click on this guy, and then choose file, and we'll go to this and hit this, and then I will grab my displacement, which is this file here. And then let's just let's see, go Arnold, lights, and let's just do an area light real quick, just so I can see what we have. W, move this up, and move it over, like this, and we'll make it much larger. Okay, and let's take the exposure all the way up, and let me go to Arnold, and render view, and hit the little play button. Let's see, are we getting anything yet? I don't see anything. Oh, wait, converting textures. Hang on a second. Maybe it's working. It's really struggling here. There it goes. Okay. Oh, no, it's still... Come on. There it goes. Okay, so it's starting to see stuff. So let's take the intensity of this light, and let's do... Okay. Come back, light. It's really struggling with this. And... Come on. Boy. So hopefully you got a nicer computer than me. Mine's just super slow. Oh my god. Come on. I know. Stop it. There we go. Okay, let's take the intensity and let's try doing, I don't know, let's say 7 worked pretty well last time. And I'm just going to draw a box here of, let's say, turn it off, turn it back on. Let's draw a box like here. And let's hit play. Oops. Play. And hopefully... should see some displacement happening here. I don't know if you can see it because its quality is really low. But basically it will displace, so you could see the texture in there now. See how that looks better than what's here? I don't know if you can tell. If you zoom in closer, you can see though it's physically changing the geometry of the scene. Now this is you might notice that it's going really super slow, even slower than when you've seen it other times. And the reason again is it actually is subdividing the geometry and then applying that on top of it. So to this, it's actually much higher res than we're seeing there. Okay, so that's why. But you can definitely see, obviously, it's adding the textures and stuff, and you know, we have a tree. Okay, so that's how you would use. And if we were going to do for a video game, I would use basically just a standard blend. So I would use Ambient Material, a blend, and then on that blend you would go to the actual blend itself. You go to bump mapping, choose file. Okay, you would change this to tangent space normals. Okay, and then you'd go to the file, and then you would assign the normal map here. Which is going to look a little funky in here right now, but you can see how that's adding the textures through the lighting. So, mesh display, soften edge. Seems a little bit obvious, but you can kind of see the normal map will do kind of a similar thing, but it's not physically changing the geometry, right? So there's supposed to be a bulge here, but if you look, there's not really in the geometry, but it gives the appearance there is. Okay, so this is what you would use for video games. This is what you'd use the displacement for the like an Arnold render, a high quality render. So what I suggest, so when what I would like to see you do is to just do the tree here. You can do the rocks if you want to, or you could do all of it. I don't really care. Or you can do your own tree. There are other things in here too. So if you go on to Mudbox, I don't really care what you use. I just want you to go through the process. So if you do File, New Scene, let's not save. Come on. Give me some options. You'll see they actually have these ones built in here already. So if you want to do a reptile or this T-Rex or a tree stump, I was almost going to do the tree stump. You could do one of these too. I don't really care. That's fine by me as well. Did that ever pop out? No, it didn't. But basically, I want you to sculpt it do those procedural things, texture it, and then export out the results back into Maya and attach them as you see here, okay? And I don't really care if you do the rendering. You might want to just so you can see that it's working, but that's not a requirement. And then just give me the Maya project folder. I'm going to need the project folder because obviously it's got the textures in there, okay? So that's basically it. So that's what you're going to do for the next one, is to basically use Mudbox to sculpt and paint your textures onto a model. And that can be whatever you want, something roughly this complexity. You could do a character for all I care. But I just wanted you to get the idea of using a 3D program to 3D paint and sculpt it. Yeah, so that's it. All right, good luck.